Hello everyone and a very warm welcome. Today, we're going to explore a really fascinating topic, the climate of our country, India. We'll find out why some days are hot and others are rainy, and we'll understand the big, seasonal rhythm of the monsoon that is so important to all of us.
But before we begin, let me ask you a question. Have you ever really thought about why you pull out your warm sweaters in December? Or why your parents always tell you to carry an umbrella in June and July? Well, the answer to these questions is all about understanding the climate.
All right, so here's our plan for today. First, we'll get really clear on the difference between weather and climate. Then we'll figure out what the word monsoon actually means. After that, we'll look at the 6 main factors that control the climate anywhere in the world. And finally, we'll see how all of these come together to create India's very special climate.
Okay, let's start with our very first section. We're going to talk about 2 words we use all the time but sometimes get mixed up: weather and climate.
So what is the difference? Well, think of it like this. Weather is like your mood on a particular day. It can change very quickly. But climate is like your personality. It's the general pattern of your moods over a very long time. It's the big picture.
Let's look a little closer at weather. It's what's happening in the air right now or at any single moment. You know how it is, right? You might wake up and it's bright and sunny, but by the afternoon, clouds have rolled in and it suddenly starts to rain. That quick change, that's weather. Climate, on the other hand, is the average of all those daily weather changes taken over a very long time, more than 30 years in fact. It tells us what to expect in a particular season. For example, we know that in North India, December and January will be cold. That's the climate. It's a pattern we can rely on.
So what do scientists measure to understand weather and climate? Well, they look at these 5 basic things. Temperature, which is how hot or cold it is. Atmospheric pressure, which is just the weight of the air pushing down. Wind, which is moving air. Humidity, which tells us how much moisture is in the air. And finally, precipitation, which is rain, snow, or any water that falls from the sky.
Great. Now that we understand the difference between weather and climate, let's talk about a word that is at the heart of India's climate, the monsoon.
You know, the word monsoon actually comes from an Arabic word, masam. And do you know what masam means? It simply means season. And that little fact gives us a very big clue about what a monsoon really is.
Now, this is a very important point. Most people think monsoon just means rain, but that's not the whole story. The monsoon is actually the complete change in the direction of the winds that happens every year as the seasons change. The rain we get is a result of this big shift in the winds.
So have you ever wondered why the climate in a place like Chennai is so different from, say, Leh and Ladakh? The answer is because of 6 major climatic controls. These are the natural factors that decide what the climate of any place on Earth will be like.
And here they are, the 6 controls. We have latitude, altitude, the pressure and wind system, distance from the sea, ocean currents, and finally relief features, which is just a fancy way of saying the shape of the land. Now, let's look at each one.
First up is latitude. This just means how far a place is from the equator. Now, an important line called the Tropic of Cancer passes almost through the middle of India. This splits our country into 2 climate zones. The southern half is close to the equator, so it has a hot tropical climate. The northern half is a bit further away, so it has a warm subtropical climate.
Next is altitude. This one is very simple. Altitude is just the height of a place above sea level. And the rule is, the higher you go, the cooler it gets. That's exactly why we all love to go to hill stations like Shimla or Udi during the summer holidays, because they are high up and much cooler than the plains. Okay, our next control is distance from the sea. Think about a city like Delhi, which is far away from the coast. It has very hot summers and very cold winters. We call this an extreme climate. Now think about Mumbai, which is right next to the sea. The sea helps to keep the temperature steady, so it doesn't get extremely hot or extremely cold.
Now for the big one, the engine that drives our monsoon, the pressure and wind system. It works like this. In summer, the land in India gets very, very hot. This hot air is light, so it rises up, creating an area of low pressure. At the same time, the ocean is much cooler, so the air above it is cool and heavy, creating an area of high pressure. And nature has a simple rule. Wind always blows from a high-pressure area to a low-pressure area. So the winds blow from the cool ocean to the hot land, and they carry a lot of moisture with them. These are our monsoon winds.
You might wonder, why don't these winds blow in a straight line? Well, it's because our Earth is constantly spinning.
This spin creates a force called the Coriolis force, which gives the winds a slight curve to the right in the northern hemisphere, where we live.
Then we have ocean currents. You can think of these as big rivers of warm or cold water flowing in the ocean. If a warm current flows near a coast, the winds blowing over it become warm and they warm up the land. And if a cold current flows by, it has a cooling effect.
And last but not least, we have relief features. Remember, this just means the shape of the land, especially things like mountains. And for India, the most important relief feature is, without a doubt, the massive Himalayan mountain range.
The Himalayas are like a giant wall, and they play two very important roles in our climate. First, they protect us by blocking the freezing cold winds that blow from Central Asia. This is why our winters are much milder than they should be. Second, this wall also traps the monsoon winds coming from the ocean. The winds are forced to rise up the mountains, and as they rise, they cool down and drop all their moisture as rain. Without the Himalayas, India's climate would be completely different.
So, we've looked at all 6 controls. Now, in our last section, let's put all these pieces together and see how they create India's unique climate.
So you see, it's a combination of everything. India's location on the globe, the height of the mountains, the pressure systems, the distance from the sea, all of these factors work together. They create the beautiful cycle of seasons, the rhythm that shapes our farming, our festivals, and our daily lives. This monsoon is truly what unites our entire country.
So I'll leave you with a small task. The next time you look out of your window, just observe. What season is it? What is the weather like? And then try to think about what we've learned today. Which of these 6 climatic controls do you think are working together to create the climate right where you live?